In the shimmering world of the golden age of Hollywood, the studios looked like untouchable kings. MGM, Warner Brothers, Paramount, they ruled the industry with iron contracts, binding stars to years of service, deciding every role, every photo, every public appearance. The actors, at least to the public, they were just lucky dreamers, grateful for the spotlight, living in mansions they didn't own, working on films they didn't choose. But here's the secret they didn't tell you. A few stars didn't just play the game, they owned it. They weren't just reading scripts handed to them, they were rewriting them. They weren't waiting for casting calls, they were deciding who got hired and who got fired. Some controlled their careers so perfectly that not even the most ruthless studio boss dared to cross them. Some used brains, others used charm, and a few, they used fear. And today, we're peeling back the curtain on the actors who quietly held Hollywood in their grip, the ones who shaped the industry from the shadows, while the rest of the world thought they were just movie stars. Charlie Chaplin, the first mogul in disguise. When most people think of Charlie Chaplin, they think of the tramp, the lovable, bumbling figure with the bowler hat and the mustache. What they don't realize is that behind the slapstick and the silent film charm, Chaplin was a ruthless businessman with a laser focus on control. By 1916, Chaplin was the highest-paid entertainer in the world, earning a jaw-dropping $670,000 a year, equivalent to over $18 million today. But that still wasn't enough for him. He wanted independence. In 1919, Chaplin joined forces with fellow icons Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, and D.W. Griffith to create United Artists, a revolutionary company that gave artists complete control over their own films. This move shook the foundations of Hollywood. Studios were furious. They thrived on locking actors into long, restrictive contracts. But Chaplin? He could produce, distribute, and star in films without answering to anyone. And make no mistake, Chaplin didn't just protect his own freedom. He guarded it like a hawk. If you crossed him, he had ways of ensuring your work never saw the light of day. Chaplin wasn't the naive clown audiences adored. He was the first real mogul in Hollywood disguised as a comedian. Mary Pickford, America's sweetheart, Hollywood's queenmaker. Mary Pickford was the darling of America, the girl with the curls who charmed audiences worldwide. But behind the sweet smile was a woman who could negotiate better than most Wall Street executives. Pickford wasn't content to be just another actress. She negotiated for profit participation in her films, a percentage of the box office. That was unheard of in the 1910s. Most actors were grateful just to get a steady paycheck. Pickford wanted ownership, and she got it. As a co-founder of United Artists, Pickford had as much control as Chaplin. She chose her scripts, her directors, and her release dates. But her influence went beyond her own career. She had the power to make or break other actors' careers. If Mary liked you, you'd find yourself suddenly cast in big-budget films. If she didn't, you might find your phone stopped ringing. Even more dangerously, she mastered the art of the whisper campaign, influencing producers, gossip columnists, and casting directors subtly without leaving a trace. Her public image remained pure, but behind closed doors, she could be as calculating as any studio boss. Irving Thalberg, the actor's producer. Technically, Irving Thalberg wasn't an actor, but the reason he's on this list is because of the extraordinary control he gave to actors and the way he helped them wield it. At just 26 years old, Thalberg became head of production at MGM, the most glamorous studio in Hollywood. His belief was simple: a star's image was everything, and if they had to bend studio rules to protect it, so be it. His wife, actress Norma Shearer, was one of the biggest stars of the 1932nd, and it wasn't by accident. Thalberg personally chose her roles, rejected scripts that didn't suit her, and even rewrote entire productions to showcase her talents. Other actors noticed and aligned themselves with Thalberg. He became the unofficial broker of power between talent and the studio. If Thalberg believed in you, you could bypass the rigid studio hierarchy. You could get better scripts, higher pay, and more control. In a system designed to keep actors powerless, Thalberg made a handful of them untouchable. Joan Crawford, the survivor who played the game. Joan Crawford didn't start with power. She came from poverty, worked her way through the chorus lines, and fought for every role she got. But once she reached the top, she wasn't about to let go. Crawford was a master of self-reinvention. When MGM labeled her box office poison in the late 1932nd, she didn't fade away. She walked into Warner Brothers, reinvented herself, and won an Oscar for Mildred Pierce. But her career longevity wasn't just about talent. Crawford knew exactly how to manipulate Hollywood's most powerful players. She befriended gossip columnists, leaked strategic stories about herself, and carefully cultivated her image as a glamorous, desirable star. Behind the scenes, she was known to influence casting decisions. If she wanted a role, she'd maneuver herself into it sometimes by making sure the actress originally chosen was suddenly unavailable. She was a survivor in every sense, proving that in Hollywood, adaptability wasn't just an asset, it was a weapon. Cary Grant, the ultimate negotiator. Cary Grant had one of the most enviable careers in film history, not just because of his charm and talent, but because of the way he structured his entire professional life. While most actors of his era were tied to single studios, Grant refused to sign long-term contracts. He went freelance, working only on films he chose, and negotiating record-breaking salaries for each one. This was unheard of. Studios thrived on owning actors, dictating every aspect of their careers. Grant flipped the script. They needed him more than he needed them. He also demanded script approval, director approval, and even input on marketing. Every film he made was hand-picked for its ability to enhance his brand. By the 1952nd, Grant had achieved something almost no one else in Hollywood had: complete independence in an industry built on control. Bette Davis, the woman who took on Warner Brothers. Bette Davis didn't just fight for better roles, she waged war against the studio system itself. In 1936, Davis was furious that Warner Brothers kept giving her weak, forgettable scripts. She sued the studio for the right to work elsewhere. She lost in court, but won in reality. Warner Brothers didn't want the bad press of losing their top actress, so they started offering her prestige projects, roles that led to multiple Oscars. Davis wasn't afraid to use her power over casting either. If she didn't want to work with you, you didn't get the job. Period. Her boldness inspired other actors to push back against studios, planting the seeds for the Hollywood labor movements that would come decades later. Frank Sinatra, the godfather of influence. By the 1952nd, Frank Sinatra wasn't just a singer, he was a Hollywood kingmaker. His connections stretched from movie producers to politicians to some of the most feared figures in organized crime. Sinatra's charm could open doors, and his temper could slam them shut. When he wanted the role of Maggio in From Here to Eternity, he got it, and it won him an Oscar. Stories swirled about how exactly that happened, but one thing was clear: Sinatra had influence that went far beyond talent. He was known to get friends roles, block enemies from getting work, and shape productions to suit his vision. In an era when actors were still fighting for scraps of control, Sinatra built an empire of favors, alliances, and debts owed. The legacy of hidden power. The Golden Age was built on the illusion that studios were the all-powerful rulers of Hollywood. But these stars proved that control wasn't just in the hands of the executives. Chaplin showed that actors could own their work. Pickford proved you could be beloved and still be a shrewd business operator. Crawford mastered reinvention. Grant broke free from the contract system. Davis fought for better roles and won. Sinatra showed that influence could come from outside the industry itself. They weren't just stars. They were architects of their own destinies. Conclusion: the stars who rewrote the rules. Most actors of the Golden Age lived and died within the boundaries set by their studios. But these few? They quietly bent or broke those rules entirely. They understood that fame fades, but power lasts. They didn't just make movies. They made Hollywood work for them. And while their names might be remembered for their films, their real legacy is the blueprint they left behind, a map for any actor who wants more than a paycheck. Because in an industry built on illusions, the biggest trick of all is holding the strings when no one knows you're the puppet master.